Hey everyone, Mr. Sujano here, your source for gaming, tech, emulation, and open source news. Let's get started. Alright, to kick things off, another absolutely gorgeous day out here, and we've got a lot of news to get through, so come along with me in my morning walk and let's talk some news, and hopefully we don't see any bears or moose. Or maybe we do. Alright, to kick things off, we're talking about Nintendo 3DS emulation with Azahar. And if I turn really quickly, you might be able to see a rabbit just over my shoulder there. If I turn or go towards it, it's going to run away. Anyways, here, we've talked about Azahar quite a bit on this channel. And for those who may or may not be aware, Azahar is a continuation of Citra. And also, for those who may or may not be aware, Citra was taken down as a part of the whole Yuzu takedown by Nintendo a while back. Now, while Citra itself, I don't think was the problem. I think it was just Yuzu. The Yuzu team was working on Citra, and as a part of the settlement, I believe that Nintendo demanded Citra be taken down too. I don't think Citra was specifically called out in the lawsuit as a point of contention. I think it was just Yuzu. I could be wrong about that, but I don't think so. Anyways, here, Pablo MK7 is continuing on with the development of Citra, just under the new name of Azahar. And they're doing everything they can to try to distance themselves from Citra and that whole controversy with Yuzu and Nintendo and TPMs and Piracy and all of that stuff. And it's also worth noting it's not just Pablo MK7 who's working on Azahar, it's also the team behind Lime 3DS. They've merged together to create Azahar. Anyways, here, they're doing what they can to try to distance themselves from any sort of controversy. And this is where things have gotten interesting over the last little bit. So recently, Pablo MK7 took to Twitter and said quite a bit, and we'll go over some of it in this video. So he says here, recently some drama blew up about CTGP7 having anti-piracy measures. And for those who may not be aware, CTGP7 is a huge mod for Mario Kart 7. Anyways, this spread in some piracy-related subreddits, and I think it's appropriate to clear things up as those posts are misleading. And he included a screenshot here that says Azahar forks that directly encourage piracy are not supported. Please use official builds. So he says here, and I'm going to try to back up a little bit to get the, where is it? The little rabbit there. Maybe in better focus. It's probably going to run away. Anyways, he says, first things off, CTGP7 does not have anti-piracy measures. It cannot and will never be able to detect if Mario Kart 7 is pirated or not. This is just something that's not possible on the 3DS and very hard and intrusive to do. What this message is doing is to block access on Azahar emulator forks that were made exclusively to facilitate piracy, like for example adding back TPM bypass or including game seeds in their source code. This alone was still not enough reason to display a message like this. The main reason is this message was added because the fork is intentionally keeping a similar name to either gather attention or to cause confusion to users who created the fork. We talked about that very thing in a previous video where we thought that that was the big reason behind it, because Azahar Plus, for example, is the fork in question, if I'm not mistaken, where Pablo MK7 and, well, I guess Azahar has requested them to not only change their logo, but change the name to distance themselves from the project. And Azahar Plus changed the logo but refused to change the name. Anyways, Pablo MK7 goes on to say here, we started noticing more and more users, even some big YouTubers, thinking that the fork in question was a better build we provided with additional features. I don't know which YouTubers he's talking about. I haven't seen any videos suggesting that Azahar Plus was better. Anyways, he then says, when we reached the fork author about this issue, they refused to do anything and just let the confusion continue. We knew some fork would eventually be made based on our emulator code base that would facilitate piracy, but we never expected that fork to be this irresponsible by staying so closely related to us. And yes, we have brought all of this up to the fork authors. He then goes on to say, finally, I want to state that neither me nor any of the Azahar devs support game piracy. We will do whatever is in our reach to prevent our EMU from being linked to illegal activities by discouraging piracy as much as we can. Side note, this is not about me limiting users to our own emulator like some people claim. CTGP7 will eventually work on any emulator that acts responsibly and implements enough functionality for the mod to work. And to all of those people who claim that Nintendo doesn't care it's an old system, one, you never know, 3DS Virtual Console, remakes. 2, it's not a matter of them caring, it's a matter of not doing anything illegal in the first place. So let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below in terms of Azahar and Piracy and Azahar Plus and all of that. I would say the easy thing for Azahar Plus to do would just be to simply change their name. It's not that difficult. Anyways, here, this is really interesting, and I'm hoping things come to a resolution at some point in the future. And by the way, here is the rabbit for those of you who like to see a fluff or two. And speaking about arguably a little controversial stuff, next up we're talking about Genshin Impact. And if you play Genshin Impact on PS4, you're really not going to like this update. Genshin Impact on PS4 is end of life. The game is basically dead. So this information is right up on the Hoyo Lab website. It's not a rumor. And there's a post here titled Notice on the Removal and Discontinuation of Updates for Genshin Impact on PS4. Thank you for your continued support and love for Genshin Impact on PS4. Due to limitations related to hardware performance and platform application size, we will be discontinuing support for updates for Genshin Impact on PS4 in future versions. However, it is worth noting here, Genshin Impact on PS5 will continue to operate normally and is not affected by the removal and update discontinuation on PS4. Traveler will still be able to enjoy the latest content updates on PS5 and other supported platforms. The removal and discontinuation plan for Genshin Impact on PS4 will be carried out in 3 phases. Game removal, then in-game purchases delisting, and then end of update support. Now, fortunately, they did provide a time frame to when everything is going down, so the game will be removed on September 10th, 2025 from PS4. In-game purchases will be delisted on February 25th, 2026, and end of update support is happening April 8th, 2026. So there is still quite a bit of time between now and when the game is officially dead on PS4. Now, it is worth noting, if you plan on picking up a PS5, you can transition the game from PS4 to PS5 and continue on and not lose anything. There should be no issues. And I would say that's a huge plus. It's a very interesting statement overall, considering the fact that Genshin Impact is also available on mobile. I'm just really surprised the PS4 can no longer handle Genshin Impact. I'm just guessing they don't want to spend the money to maintain it. Maybe the player base on PS4 is smaller. I really don't know here. It's just very interesting that they're naming hardware limitations as the big reason here. If you play Genshin Impact on PS4, let me know your thoughts about this one in the comments below, and if you plan on upgrading to a PS5 and playing Genshin Impact there, or just playing Genshin Impact somewhere else. And speaking about games going away, next up we're talking about Collective Shout. Now, we've talked about Collective Shout quite a bit recently, the fueling power, I believe, behind the whole payment processor delisting of a bunch of Steam and itch.io games. Well, apparently here, Zoom platform is also being targeted. Gaming on Linux has a pretty detailed article about the entire thing, and I do recommend checking it out. And if you're interested and wanted to learn more about it, like everything we talk about, links are in the description below right at the bottom. I don't hide my sources. Anyways here, I guess this is a statement right from Zoom. As you are likely aware, there have been a number of adult title delistings across the industry. One of our payment processors made us aware that a fellow member of the industry, that's a really interesting way of putting it, was concerned about our content. After we heard from the payment processor, we immediately engaged in lengthy discussions with both PayPal and Stripe. Gaming on Linux says that Zoom has now added in opt-in two-factor authentication, and they're looking at alternative payment options and also a wallet system, while also saying they have no plans to remove any titles and will do absolutely everything in their power to prevent such delistings. And if you've been hearing some tapping throughout the video, it's as a result of this little guy right up there. And here's a better look at him from my phone. So this is the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL zoomed in at 5 times. And does a much better job at capturing the little guy. It's interesting, I'm using a DJI Osmo Pocket 3 to film my videos, and the mic here is a DJI Mic 2. I think the mic is absolutely fantastic. I think the Osmo Pocket 3 is absolutely fantastic. And although it records much better than my Google Pixel, zooming in, the Google Pixel just completely stomps the DJI. But this isn't about any of that stuff. Let's just get back to the topic at hand here. Anyways, it seems that Collective Shout is now considering themselves a member of the industry. And that could spell trouble for future initiatives from this campaign if you're against them. If you're for them, then you might be excited to know that maybe they're going to be more involved in the gaming industry as a whole. Now, I could be wrong here with this statement of a fellow member of the industry and linking it to Collective Shout. But I don't think so in this case. Either way here, I don't think this is near the end of the saga of Collective Shout and their involvement and impacts in the game industry. And I'm very curious to see what happens next. And that brings me into the next segment here, which interestingly is also from an article posted on Gaming on Linux. Gaming on Linux posted this one and it got picked up by a bunch of different areas. And I do recommend checking out Gaming on Linux in general. I think it's a fantastic website. Anyways, the article is titled, "After being banned for sale, Vile Exhumed has released for free." So from my understanding, Vile Exhumed was going to be released on Steam, and then it was caught up in the whole Collective Shout payment processors action that recently happened. So anyways here, this is, I guess, right from the developer of Vile Exhumed. "This censorship of my work is a direct attack on creative expression and artistic freedom, and it will not stop with false accusations of sexual content." The developer goes on to say here, "The game covers topics of assault, abuse, and entitlement, and uses a combination of FMV and practical effects to create images as horrifying as the themes. This was never a secret. There are also a lot of intense visuals in Vile Exhumed, but there is no uncensored nudity, no depictions of sex acts, and no pornography whatsoever. This was one of the justifications bad actors are using right now to censor games. What this actually results in is taking power and storytelling away from women, other marginalized artists, and ultimately from everyone." On top of that, Gaming on Linux says here, the developer said that 50% of the profits were going to go towards the Red Door Family Shelter, a Toronto-based charity that focuses on helping families. I would recommend checking out Gaming on Linux for even more information on the matter. It's a very interesting topic overall, and I'm very curious to see what happens moving forward. There's a lot of information on the Gaming on Linux website, including a link to the developer's website as well as the YouTube video. And speaking about stuff moving forward, next up we're talking about Larian Studios. And if you're a fan of Baldur's Gate 3 and a fan of what Larian Studios has created, you might be a fan of what's next to come. Although we don't really know what's next to come, there is something. So there's a tweet over on Twitter that really got the ball rolling, and it says, "Baldur's Gate 3 was released 2 years ago and has been nothing short of a landmark achievement in the video game industry. It became a massive success, earning almost 700,000 overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam alone." And then Larian saw that and says this, "Crazy to think it's only been 2 years. It's truly been life-changing. Probably worth writing about one day, but I can spoil the biggest takeaway. Baldur's Gate 3 was what allowed us to do our next crazy thing. How that will pan out is anyone's guess, but I can assure you we're working hard to ensure you'll have plenty of fun. Like really, loads of it. In a surprising way, and I can't wait to show you. But you'll need to be patient and we'll need a bit of time to make it all work. It'll be worth it though. I am very curious to see what happens moving forward with this. Unfortunately, I don't have any more information on the matter. I don't have a game name, a style, a release date, anything like that just yet. But I'm very curious to see what Larian Studios is going to cook up. Let me know your thoughts and maybe predictions in the comments below. And speaking about releases, next up here we're talking about the Retroid Pocket Classic. And it seems here that Go Retroid has unveiled their newest Retroid Pocket Classic, and that is the Sega Genesis themed one. So a while back, and by a while back I really mean just a few weeks ago, mid-July, Retroid tweeted out 350 likes and we'll make this Genesis themed Classic 6, and the tweet got 1.2 thousand likes. So they made the Classic 6. It's priced at $129 and available now. And continuing to talk about gaming handhelds, next up here we're talking about the Anbernic RG477M. And if you're interested in the 477M and also PS3 emulation, you might be interested in a brand new video posted by Gamma OS. For those who may be unaware, Gamma OS is an operating system for some of these Anbernic devices. And this one here seems to have PlayStation 3 emulation working pretty darn good on the 477M. Now, I believe they are using RPCSX, a PlayStation 3 emulator for Android, but it also seems that they have Street Fighter 4 up and running at a solid 60 frames per second. And speaking about developers and operating systems, next up here we're talking about iOS on Xbox. And if you're familiar with Touch HLE, we've talked about that one in the past. Anyways, here it's appearing on the xbdev.store, and they say here Touch HLE Alpha, play iOS games on Xbox. It does need a file system in eIOS. If you're interested in this one, this is more of just a friendly heads up. Feel free to check out the link in the description below. Additionally, if you wanted to learn more about emulation and Xbox dev mode, I'll link a playlist in the description below as well from Archades Games, who has quite a bit of content. And speaking about stuff on YouTube, next up here we're talking about Skyblivion. Now, if you're a fan of Skyrim, if you're a fan of Oblivion, you're probably going to be a big fan of Skyblivion. Now, for those who may or may not be aware, Skyblivion is a massive mod for Skyrim. And that's really understating it. A bunch of fans have come together to try to remake Oblivion within Skyrim. It is a huge project overall. It's got Bethesda support, and it seems that release is going to be pretty soon. They've got a brand new video titled The Final Stretch Towards Release, Skyblivion Development Diary 6. In my opinion here, this is one to keep your eye on, and I do recommend checking out the video because I would say even if you're not the biggest fan of Oblivion or Skyrim, you might be a fan of this huge fan project. It is, there's a lot of love, a lot of work that went into it, and I can't wait for this thing to release. And continuing to talk about stuff on YouTube and releases, this one is going to be pretty quick. It's just a friendly heads up. Nintendo is having an Indie World Showcase on August 7th, so just in a couple of days after the time of filming here. If you're interested in this one, there are 452 people currently waiting, and I'll drop a link to it in the description below. And speaking about people waiting for stuff, last up here we're talking about Battlefield 6. And this is really interesting. There's an article over on VG247 titled Battlefield 6 Beta Peaks at Nearly 10,000 Concurrent Players on Steam Before It's Even Out. It appears that people are logging in and just sitting in the lobby waiting for the game to release. So the preload for the beta went live on Steam just the other day. There's people already waiting for the game, which releases on Thursday. I don't know if they're going to have to restart the game once it launches, and maybe waiting is for nothing. We'll have to wait and see on that one, but overall it's a very interesting space. And it seems that Battlefield 6 is going to be pretty popular. From my understanding, EA has a ton riding on it. But anyways, that is all I've got for you in this one. Straight to the point, all stuff and no fluff. Well, actually, there were a few fluffs in this video. In fact, here are some chickadees from my hike yesterday with Mrs. Sujano. Hopefully you enjoyed that. We talked about a bunch today. Feel free to discuss anything we talked about in the comments below. If you like this video, leave a like. If you didn't like this video, leave a like. Hit that subscribe button. Check out my other videos. Don't tempt fate. Save your state.